Hi, everyone, and welcome to Under the Microphone, the podcast where we talk about the fascinating world of science and the people who make it happen. My name is Antoinette. I'm founder of Relab and also your host for Under the Microphone. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Santie van Niekerk. Santie is the director and co-founder of MiChem Dynamics and VGL Solution, and also a leader in quality systems. She brings a very warm and people-centered approach to leadership, quality, and laboratory culture. Her way of working and the way she speaks also really resonates with me with the way she approaches people and purpose in science. Welcome, Santie. It's really good to have you here today. To start us off, could you tell us a little bit about your journey? Where did it all begin for you? And how did you find your way into science and leadership?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Antoinette. Hello, everyone. So I'm currently a 42-year-old plus girlkie. So I'm from my hometown is Palaborwa. I grew up there. I went to study biomedical technology. My real desire was to become a pathologist, and I was very much interested in forensics, always searching for answers, searching for new ways. Like I had that sense of creativity in me. But school was tough. So with my marks and what was available for me was going into biomedical technology in the lab, obviously in the medical side on the lab space. And I studied at the Tshwane University of Technology. I finished my diploma. I finished my BTech degree, and then I studied quality at UNISA. But I started working very early in my career. In my first year, I had to get a job. Otherwise, I had to go home for the holidays. So I found myself a job, and then I started working from my first year in the medical microbiology field. And that actually supported me a lot because when I finished my degree, I could start permanently working in that specific medical lab in microbiology. And then, I was there for about 3 years. And then I got an opportunity at a engineering organization to be one of the first technologists or analysts, microanalysts at a new lab that they started. And then from there, I think I was there for a year. I had the opportunity to become a lab manager at a very young age. I think I was 22, 23. And then within 2 years, I became an associate. And then within another year, I became a director. And then in 2014, I had this crazy idea of resigning and just starting MiChem Dynamics.
What made you take that jump?
So I don't know. There wasn't something, and that's the beauty in that, I don't know, because that was something that was pushing me forward to something new. So it wasn't something that specifically happened. It wasn't that I was, frustrated with my current position. It wasn't that I have been dreaming for years to start my own business. It was literally one moment in one day where I just had this inner knowing, such a strong inner knowing, such a strong pull. Something was pulling me and telling me it's time for you to go. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew it was time for me to go and expand my wings and see what I can do with the skills that I've got. And that was at that moment how I felt. And I am so happy and so grateful for myself that I actually listened to my heart at that moment. And you can imagine how scary it was. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do and what's the plan. And luckily, I met a very special person in my life within that time frame, Vinay Mutley. And I took him along and we started MiChem.
After you resigned, what was that first moment? Okay, let me start my own company or business. What was that moment? I mean, you said you didn't really know what you were going to do. So where did the idea or the inspiration come from?
So the main thing, the first step is I registered a business. And then I called a friend to say, can you help me? Vinay, what are we going to call this business? That was the second step. And then we registered the business, and then we had to think of a logo, and we finished all of that. And then myself and Vinay looked at each other and we said, okay, what skills do we have? What can we do? And obviously, I was put for a reason into the science industry. And we thought, okay, well, we sort of know what happens at labs. Like we can build systems. So let's start doing consulting. Let's do audits. Let's start training. So we were very much focused on what we are going to do and not really at that time of why we're doing it. So it is quite interesting because, as we continue with this podcast, I will obviously start talking about the why, but the why actually only came later.
For those of us who have our own businesses, you're making it sound so easy. Obviously, it wasn't so easy to start with. So, any struggles that you had during that time that, that you're like, no, I won't do this again, or anything that you'll, learn from that you can share with our viewers?
I was having a conversation yesterday with my business partner around, the struggles of owning your own business. And I said like 80% of having a business is feels like struggle. Feels like there's so many things that is working against you. And, you need to push to look for clients and then they don't take your work and then, this issue. And then you start appointing people and then the troubles just become more and more and more. So I think when you start a business, the biggest struggle is getting your clients. Is how do I get clients? How do I put my name out there? How do I get people to know who I am, what I do, and, to sell what I've got? So besides having a clear vision of what you want to sell, I mean, that you pretty much need to sort out quite quickly after you started your business. But then the next very difficult position to be in is to say, how do I put it out in the world?
Yeah, I believe you do your webinars, right? Your webinars to show the people what you can do. Is that how you started? Was that your main marketing?
The webinars that I feel most of the readers listening or most of the people listening to this podcast will know about our webinars that we do. It didn't actually start with the idea of, wanting to sell our business as a marketing initiative. It started with the idea that the market needs more. So there's a gap in the market. Because when I was working in the lab space, like we had very much tunnel vision. Like this is how we do things in this lab and we don't know how to do it otherwise. And should we need assistance, we need to pay a consultant or we need to pay for training. And there's always the money factor that came with that. And being an auditor and assessor myself, as I was, auditing and assessing and going through the different labs and actually seeing all the difficulties they experience, and the understanding of basic concepts around the standards that they need to implement. And I would always wonder, like, why do you guys not know these things, or why, what is the gap here? And there was this one thing that always came. The answer was always, Santie, the company do not want to send us on training. Santie, there's no money for training. Santie, there was always this, I want to say the word excuse, but it is a valid excuse. Like sometimes there's just not money. But then I also started noticing the impact of the people in the lab not knowing all of these things. It really impacted the quality of the results they produced, the quality of the system. It really impacted, it had a direct impact. This lack of knowledge had a direct impact on systems and results. And most of you know, if you work in the lab environment, you play a critical role, a critical role in the world, and your results matter. And then one day I had this freaking crazy idea. I said to Vinay, listen, Buti, like, we can't change the fact that this lab or these labs do not have money to always, have a full-time consultant or have send all their people for training and things. But that can't be an excuse. Like, I feel like it's an excuse in the sense of, okay, let's send out wrong results because, we don't have money to send people on training. There's so much knowledge that we have as consultants, as auditors that we gain through our experience. And how can we give this to the industry so that we can enhance the industry, so that they can do better, so that we can eat and live better as human beings.
You've done webinars for a very long time, and a lot of companies would have started charging for the webinars, but you've kept it free all the time. So what made you decide to keep it free?
Because we feel that saying that we don't have money anymore can't be an excuse anymore. Because that's why I said, like, there's this excuse we use. And like I say, it's a valid excuse. Like, there is no money. But it gives us that leeway to say, the quality of our results, may be influenced because we've got a lack of. And what we're trying to cover is the lack. What is lacking in the industry? And there's a need for knowledge. There's a need to put knowledge out there, not through books, and textbooks and all of these things. And that also works. But when we look at real experience and reality and what happens in practice, like, how could we share this to the industry so that the industry can improve? So that is always the vision. That's the vision. And that's why it will be free, and it will be continued to be free, because this is how we impact and this is how we live our vision. So the vision of MiChem Dynamics is to save lives, change lives, and create a better future. And we do that through providing our knowledge to the industry, and hopefully they take it on board and they go and improve their system. Because at the end of the day, we want to see the industry elevated. Because if they elevate, if they become better, we become better. And every human being that's touched by a lab result will be better. And that's how we save lives, change lives, and create a better future.
You said earlier that your purpose and your vision, it only came after. So how was that developed?
How this started to happen is that throughout the years, as we started working with the people in the labs, and we started auditing and consulting and training, and we started noticing that it's very rarely that the system fails. So the procedures, the policies is there. Like, the labs comply. But when you stop looking at the systems and you start looking at the people behind the systems, that's where you start noticing where change is needed. Is that people in our industry have become so negative, so depressed. So, we would go do audits and people are so stressed around you. And they'll say to me, Santie, please, don't raise that non-conformance. I'm going to be fired. Santie, please, And we were like, what the hell is this about? And we started seeing hurt. People hurting. People going to work and they are depressed, they are stressed, and then that's how mistakes happen. So it's very rare that the system needs improvement. But because of the culture in the organization and how people are being treated and how management responds to people when there's deviations, then we started noticing the human behind the systems. And me and Vinay would have nights of tears and sadness. And, then it's not about what we audited anymore, but it's about the stories that we could share about the hurt that we saw in organizations. And that's really slowly but surely how this dream started coming to life. The why. Why are we doing this? Because we then saw that there's a bigger gap. There's a gap where we forgot as an industry, and I'm just talking about our industry. I mean, I don't know about other industries, but we saw that there's a gap about how are we forgetting the human being behind the system, behind the work? Like, what is the impact if you have people that hates to come to work, that is, like I said, depressed, that can't focus, that's more worried than anything else. What is the impact on that? How many non-conformances do we actually pick up when we go to a company that's got a healthy culture in comparison with a company that has got not so healthy culture?
You're very focused on people and leadership, and you spoke a lot about your new project that you're working on. Maybe you can tell us a little
Yeah.
bit more about that.
So I've always had a need, not always, like as time went by, when I started focusing on people and what makes people, and I went on my own personal journey. So obviously it starts with you. And I've been on a personal journey for more than 15 years where I saw psychologists, I saw coaches, mentors. I've been really have intensively try to understand who am I and what is my purpose. I questioned, like, why the hell are we on earth? Like, what's the purpose of all of these? And I believe everyone, or most people, have asked that somewhere in their lives. And if you haven't yet, you will one day. You will wake up one day and you will think, what is this all for? So I started really working on myself when emotions comes up, when triggers comes up, like what is happening for me. And as that evolved, my surroundings changed. The people that come into my life, the opportunities that came into my life, I started really connecting with my intuition, finding my own power. When there's fear, when I want to do something and fear comes, I'm like, oh, Santie, you're so useless. You will never be able. Like, I've got the skill on how to work with that emotion because it's not me. I am not fear. Fear is here, it's visiting me. I can now either entertain it, I can sit with it and listen what it's its story, and then I can move on with it. So like it takes all of that, and that's where the opportunity started happening. I started noticing the impact of the people around me, my employees. Like the more I worked on my own personal healing, the more I approached them differently. The more I could hold space for them, when they go through emotions that they don't understand. Because if I understand how my brain works, my parts, my emotions, if I understand emotions, I can support other people to walk them through their emotions, and their beliefs. And yeah, so this started, and then with the organization itself, with culture and things, and then this concept with your question now, like where did this concept come up with?
Your sacred and healing organizations.
Organizations. My coach, Taryn Sido, that I worked with, phenomenal coach that I worked with for many years and still working with her. I've always had this need to support and to help and to heal the world. I want to freaking save the world. And I want to make a difference in people's lives. I want people to meet me, and after they've met me, go away and say, sure, that was life changing. Like that was my dream, and obviously that starts at home in the sense of if I want to go into the world, let's start with my own employees. Let's see how we can influence and change and support our own employees and what impact does that have. Let's start at home before we start looking outside. So I was working on a lot of things around healing, so the word healing came up a lot for me, about not only healing myself, but creating healing organizations. But I didn't name it healing organizations until one day my coach, Taryn, sent me a picture of a book where she said, Santie, go read this book. This is exactly what you're doing. And this book is called The Healing Organizations. And it's all about companies all over the world that has got cultures and systems and processes for a greater good, to support healing of the world. And they doing a lot of things inside their organizations to support the healing of others. So bringing a whole human people to feel safe, healed, they can go into the world, they can have the courage to go do what they need to do. And then I was like, sure, that's exactly what I want to do. And then that's how it started. And then I went on my spiritual journey and, just learning so much more about me and about the organization and dealing with challenges in the organization and what is my reaction to that and how can I heal that part of me. It's a rough journey. And then last year or the year before, but last year it really started, is the concept of sacred and healing organizations. And that's what we're trying to do at MiChem and VGL. And then obviously taking that out into the world. So when we just a quick explanation that a sacred organization it's not about religion. So it's spiritually aligned. So it's built on truth and compassion and service to something that is greater than ourselves. So there's a universe, there's a God, there's something every person has got a need to do to make a difference in some or other way. There's something that is greater than us. And as a sacred organization, we're building that greatness. We're working towards something that's bigger than us. And as a healing organization, it's not clinical, so it's not a hospital where you go to. It's not that type of healing, but it's more about inner healing, is that you create a space where people feel emotionally safe. They feel energetically alive. It's a place where people can restore. It's a place of restoration. It's intentional. So it is creating an environment where people are supported to go through their own unique healing process. We're creating that support and space. We've got coaches available, we've got workshops. We create a space where people can just let go as they let go. And then as soon as they let go, we can start with the process to build again, And that's also what really, makes me sad, is that people come here and you realize that a lot of organizations have got no idea the impact they have on people.
No, that's
when
true.
they abuse people, when they don't listen to people, when they dismiss people, when they attack people, the hurt that goes with that. It's, and that's
People don't
why,
feel valued in their workplace.
and like the trauma that people had to go through. You can't even think but anyway, so the point is and that's why I'm not just doing this for MiChem and VGL. That's why I've got a mission to take this concept of what we're creating in these two organizations out into the world.
How do you foresee doing that? What's your plan to spread this to other organizations?
You need to be very careful on how you introduce this new concept. And there's a process, there's a timing to it. It is not something that's going to happen overnight. I first have to explain the difference between compliance and competence, for example. Like, if we understand that concept, yes, okay. So now, currently, what the industry currently understands is the standards, ISO 17025, ISO 15189, CAP. We understand that. So processes, we are fine with. Now, like a procedure, a policy on how to do things, validating your methods, guys, sharp. We are all good with that. But there's always been something missing, and we all know it. Everyone listening to this podcast know it. We are missing the human factor, because it's one thing to have a policy and a procedure, but who needs to do that shit? Like, it's people. It's always people. And that's why slowly but surely, if you followed the webinar series from last year, I brought you this new model, model
Culture,
to
isn't
say,
it? Yeah.
the competency triangle model, where we're going to talk. It's not purpose competence is one aspect of having an effective management system to send out results that is of quality, to save lives, change lives, and create a better future. It's one aspect. And the other two missing aspects is purpose and culture. So we need purpose competence. We need culture competence. Because when we've got all three, we have sacred and healing organizations.
This podcast has been proudly sponsored by Anatech Instruments. Anatech has been supplying high-quality laboratory equipment and instruments to laboratories in the South African market for the past 44 years. They offer unique solutions for microbiological testing, lab automation, rapid methods, and hygiene monitoring, as well as product serving sectors within the pharmaceutical, water, food, wine, agricultural, clinical, research academia, and environmental monitoring. The Anatech goal of providing the best quality products and services is driven by offering solution-based products, a knowledgeable sales team supported by skilled technical and application specialists to ensure that their customers receive the products and services they require to fulfill their daily tasks with ease. In your mind, what do you see a healthy organization look like?
It is an organization where every human being, not just top management, also not just the analysts or the workers or the employees on differently, every person understands that they've got a responsibility to grow, to heal, and to work towards their purpose and their light. A healthy organization or a healthy culture is when every person in the organization understands the part that they are playing into achieving the vision of the organization, into achieving the purpose, even if your vision is different than ours, saving lives, changing lives, creating a better future. I don't care what's your vision, but I promise you, the results that you're selling out is either saving a life or killing someone. You're either healing or you're destroying. So if a healthy culture is a culture where every human being, doesn't matter your level or how long you are there, takes responsibility for how they show up in the world, to understand the impact they have when they speak words, when they judge, when they hurt. That is a healthy culture.
How do you see that shift happening? What do you think is needed for that shift to happen, for that mindset change to happen? That it's not just about ticking the boxes, it's also about the people and the culture in the lab.
The idea is how change is going to happen is that any person that is willing, because change is a choice. I can never ever convince someone to think differently, to believe differently, I can't. I can give you, sit for you 3 days in a training session, but if you don't make that choice as an individual, change will never happen. The process we're following is we're putting stuff out in the world. There's some people that is ready to hear, some people that's not yet ready to hear. And the people that is ready to hear, doesn't matter if you're a student, if you just came in, if you just finished your studies and you're looking for a job. If you are ready to hear this, they say when the student is ready, the teacher will come. Now, I truly believe in that. My life experience is like that. And if you come up and you see this leadership webinar and you attend this leadership webinar, and even the smallest thing shifts in you. Maybe yesterday you thought you're a horrible person, and just by listening to a post we do, or even someone else reading a book, there's so many inspirational leaders and people out there that's putting content out there. It doesn't matter from where it's coming from. But if any small shift happens inside of you, change is happening.
In your experience, on the flip side now, what does a company look like that just focuses on compliance and not about culture competence? It just focuses on the product and the service and not the people?
Yeah, what is interesting with many of my webinars, I would ask that question to the audience. Like if you look now at this concept of purpose and culture and process competence, I would ask the question, which one do you think is lacking in your organization? And overwhelmingly, everyone will say, Santi, culture competence, purpose competence. And that is what the people are experiencing. Stress, anxiety, and guys, and I want to make it very clear, it's not to say that if you work at MiChem and VGL, you do not have stress and anxiety. You will have. Like it's a natural thing. But how does your organization support that? How do they listen to that? And it's not about solving your problems. I've got a lot of people that's going through a lot of stuff in their lives. I can't take it away, and that's also not my job. But you know what? I can give them a hug and tell them I love them.
For you, what is the lack of that? What impact has that got on the organization as a whole?
I believe that when people come to work and they do not feel that they belong, and they don't feel inspired, and they don't feel motivated to follow all these rules, because guys, we are in a compliance industry, modern competence, but yeah, we are in an industry where we are being assessed, we are being audited, we are being all of this stress and anxiety in order to comply to the standard. If people come in and they don't feel that they want to do these things, they want to see the organization succeed, they are motivated, inspired, as I've mentioned, they feel they belong, they feel they know their purpose here, why, what is the part that they are playing, then automatically human nature is we are going to make a lot of human error.
And hide it.
Yeah, it's an automatic response, because, and none of it is on purpose. Most of the time it's not on purpose. 99% of the time. It's I forgot, or I didn't know, or I don't really care. Let's be honest, I don't really care. Like, I'm going to finish my job, I am going to go home. So there's all these small factors that at the end, with, as you know, working in a lab, there's so many things that can happen, that can go wrong, that can influence a result. And if every person does not play their part 100%, results can be impacted. So when we got a robot, asking a robot to do these things, we can switch it and tell it to do it and program it, and it will do it 100%. But when you put a human in there, you're sitting with another story. Yeah? Because mistakes can happen. Human error can happen. It's a reality. So really knowing that, understanding that people come in, even though you as a lab have trained them, you've deemed them competent, you're supposed to, it's part of your procedure, you've deemed them competent, né? But why do people still make mistakes? Because you're sitting a human being there that just yesterday lost someone or had a relationship that broke up. So even though the competency is there, the technical competency is there, but the emotional state is influencing the work. And then there's a mistake. And then what happens? My famous thing to always say is that
retraining.
Yeah, raise non-conformance, root cause analysis, what human error, corrective action, retraining. Like, how is that helping? Because you see, like, we're forgetting we are working with human beings. And again, it's not to say that at MiChem and VGL we never make mistakes, because we've got this culture. But I can promise you, and I see it here, the difference when people feel safe in an organization in compared with when people do not feel safe. Like, people are open. They come and say, Santi, I've messed up. Sorry. Like, sharp. What are we going to do to fix it? Just that. People, with things that we see, like people hiding information, faking data, because they're so scared of the consequences of that. And you see it in reality.
If someone makes a mistake, what will your approach be?
There's a few factors, obviously, that you look at. So maybe they, was it really because they didn't know? They didn't know. They were not aware of this. Then It's a procedure thing. It's a process competence factor that needs to be looked at. Okay, so how are we documenting this? How do we do training on this? We need to relook at how do we do initial training on this, continuous training on this, reminding the staff, someone, and then it could be someone forgot to do it. They knew about it, but they forgot. And then that's where we asked why. So why did they forget? Is it because they've got too many things to focus on? Is it because they, are humans? They went through an emotional period during their life then? Is it because there was distractions in the lab? People were talking everywhere and people were loud. There was music in the lab. Like, what is the reason for that? And if we can't get to a reason, then we still must cover all of that. We still must bring corrective actions for all of that.
And if the reason was the person, like you said earlier, lost someone or something, I mean, that's not something work-wise, so it's more personal. How would you correct that?
So when you get an organization where there's this emotional connection, it means that if someone is coming in, even though they're not saying something, people notice. People notice you're not looking okay. You're not looking all right today. What's happening? And if they don't want to share, they don't want to share. But then because of the safety of the organization, they can go and say, listen, I don't want to share what I'm going through, but today is not a good day for me. Can I please ask if you can assist me today? Double check my work. I might have some human error coming up. And there's no judgment to that. And that's the power of trust and safety in an organization.
So how do you feel then about that saying don't bring your personal problems to work?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense because of the following reasons. And this is quite an important thing if we can discuss it. So thank you for that question. When we say, and I'm going to start with why saying don't bring emotions to work, I don't understand that. Because what does that even mean? Okay, so I'm an emotional person that can experience 600 different emotions in one day. So you're asking me to come to work with no emotion. What does that even mean? Have you ever met a person that can show for a full day long no emotion? I don't even know how that looks like. But what the people that say that, the organizations that say don't bring in emotions to work, actually mean don't bring your sad stuff to us. You understand? Like, don't come and cry here and tell us you're not well and we don't want to hear that.
You're here to work.
The one emotion or the few emotions that is allowed in this organization is anger, anxiety, stress. Because the other day someone said to us, like, we don't bring emotions to work. I'm like, oh, have you ever been angry at someone in a meeting? Yeah, like the other day I screamed at someone, Santie. Yes, they made me angry. I'm like, now what is your anger? Isn't it an emotion? Yes, it is an emotion. So guys, there is no thing like don't bring emotions to work. Because even anger, someone being frustrated, if you ever felt frustrated, why are you bringing that emotion to work? Frustration is an emotion. The real problem is people don't have emotional intelligence at work. So they don't know what to do with that emotion. So if I'm feeling angry, I don't know what to do with it. And the best tool I've got is to lash out at you because you make me angry. And that's the problem, is that there's a lack of emotional intelligence at work, understanding this is your emotion. Like, what is triggering you? It's got actually nothing to do with that person. Like, you need to deal with your stuff. There's healing that needs to happen. So when someone also say, like, don't bring your problems to work. So in the sense of, again, in our organization, please bring your problems to work. Like, we will set time, we will discuss, because we also understand that your problems is connected with your emotions. Now, so if you are experiencing a problem, there's elevated emotions, like you feel extreme stress and anxiety or sadness. Is it going to influence your work? Yes, it's going to influence your work. So who in our luckily we've got a few coaches in our organizations already. This year we're going to get 2 more coaches in our organization. But here's a space where you can talk about your problems in confidence, so confidentiality. And the idea is not that we can always solve your problems. 80% of the time we can't. But what we can give you is a space to let it out. We can create a space for you where you can just share how you feel. Because I promise you, most of the time, that's all that person needs.
We've spoken a lot about managers and leaderships needing to be there for the people who work for them, and you needing to have someone to go speak to if you're having a tough day. But on the flip side, obviously, managers are also under pressure. They need to make sure the work goes out. They need to make sure the targets are met. Now you've got an employee understaffed. Maybe now you've got an employee who's, had a grandma or someone pass away, and they're not coming to work in the right mindset. And you have those targets that need to be met, and they're coming to you and they don't know if they can do their work today. How do you, as a manager, how do you say cool, calm and collected and not bring those pressures and not put more pressure on that person, even though you've got these targets and everything that need to be met? How do you deal with that situation as manager?
I invite you to go on your own personal journey of healing. I know it sounds weird, but as a person, as a manager, Antoinette, most of the stress and anxiety us as human we carry, it is pressure that we're putting on ourselves. Most of stress, everything we carry as a manager sitting there, it's because we're carrying guilt, we're carrying shame, we're carrying, we want to make someone proud. We're putting all this additional pressures on ourselves. And that's why we struggle as humanity. We struggle with boundaries. There is time. You can manage it. But because you want to show the world that you never fail or that you can do everything, you the power woman. And again, you see, it's always you. It's always you. And it's not
true.
to judge or to put shame. It's I'm sharing this is my story. When I get on a regular basis because I love putting so many things on my plate. It's not even funny. And then I start getting overwhelmed. And then someone tells me, Santie, I can't do this. Sorry, I'm late. I haven't. And then I'm like, okay, let's look at me. So is this really so urgent? Yeah, it is urgent because I really wanted to send it to this client because I want the client to know that they can trust me. And, do I have a trust issue? Then I go into this spin about what. And then eventually I found the client. I'm like, listen, client, sorry, can you give us an extra day? Yeah, sure, Santie.
Wow. It's true for everyone, not just managers and leaders. It's true for everyone. We want to look good. We want to make a good impression. We want to show that we are committed and we stick to our word. But sometimes things just don't work out that way. And sometimes, life happens. And that's like you said, that's where showing compassion comes in. We're understanding, okay, you are a bit late, but understanding the circumstances.
I promise you, there's no manager you're reporting to that's harder on you than you. The person that you shame the most is you. The person that you judge the most is you. But when you become aware of those things, in other words, you become conscious of those things, you're starting to lift your energy. You're starting to put boundaries. You're starting to love yourself and your energy starts lifting. And the more people that become aware in organizations about their impact, the lighter the organizations become, and that influences the consciousness of the organization. So how aware is the organization of the impact they have on others that's working for them outside? And that's the whole consciousness story.
How do people bring that into their business? Having that openness, what steps do they take to start building that environment? If they have this environment where people are closed up and they don't want to speak, what steps do they take to start saying, listen, we want to change the culture in our company and they want to open up? What steps can they take to bring that healing and sacred organization, into their workspace?
We're speaking now to all people on all levels. So not just management. So I've got a one-liner for that. Okay? If you want to see change, be the change.
What impact do you hope that your work continues to have?
Yeah, I don't try to put a measurement on the impact. I think that's been a journey for me because I'm very much I want to see the results, and that gave me a lot of anxiety and stress. And I had to really do a lot of work on letting that go. So the only thing I hope for is that it's related to me. The only thing I hope for is that I've got the privilege and the honor to keep on working on myself, and that I keep on having the courage to go spread what I feel I need to spread. And that's all I hope for, that I don't lose this, because that's the only impact I can have, is to continue to be brave enough to voice what I believe in, and whoever is ready to hear, and whoever pitches up, even if one person pitches up to listen, that's awesome. The impact of that is not in my hands. So, yeah.
Have you seen the impact in your viewers on your webinars?
Yes. So I'm lucky enough that so many people that come to listen actually send me emails, contact me on LinkedIn, and they actually give me feedback a lot. And I really appreciate it, because I always tell them that I appreciate it. What stood out for them? What did they learn? What are they taking forward? I do get a lot of feedback on that. And every time I'm in tears when I receive a message or a email. And the reason why it always makes me emotional to receive it is you never know. You do something you like. And guys, like, the courage it takes to put all of what imposter syndrome aside and the fear and stuff, and stand there and talk, and then afterwards you're like, okay, I'm going to detach, I'm going to leave it, I'm going to move on, I don't want to know what. And you don't know. And then you get that message. And then you're like, wow, okay, that inspires me. That creates, like, okay, I'm going to do this. Even if it's just for that one person again, I'm going to continue with this. But it's really something that inspires me to continue doing this work. So, yeah, keep on doing it. Yeah.
Do you have any final message for young scientists or anyone wanting to go into the career of science?
Science is freaking awesome. You're going to get into the science world, and the science world society is going to tell you it's boring. You must follow a procedure, like, just follow the procedure. Don't use your mind. I'm telling you, that's an absolute lie. I've been in this industry for many years, just in quality. And I mean, people can think quality is boring, but guys, life is as boring as you make it. There is so much more to discover. There's so much more things that we need to research on and develop on a lot of aspects, even if you're not in a research lab. If you just look at how do we bring the human factor back into science, come on, you all can, like, go and research and put stuff out there. And yeah, like, it's such a interesting field, depending on your mindset, depending on your belief, depending on
That's
how
true.
easily are you influenced by your circumstances. And if your current circumstances, you just started the job and it's not good at the organization, it's your choice on how you're going to let that influence you. So go find resources, go do things, go post stuff, go make TikTok videos about stuff you discover, and
Go listen to
see.
Santie's webinars.
Yeah, go come listen to my webinar, join the conversations, and yeah, and like, life is as interesting as you make it.
And a final encouragement to scientists and young professionals that feel unseen or unvalidated in the workplace.
If you rely on others to make you feel safe, you can maybe look at changing that. Like, how can I feel safe?
Internal validation.
Yeah. How can I feel safe in myself? How can I trust myself? If you're a person struggling to trust others, start by, are you trusting yourself? So it's about empowering yourself And you're going to see slowly but surely, without any effort, your surroundings is going to start changing. Not because you're putting any effort out there deliberately to change that. Because remember, you can never change other people. You can only change yourself. If you want to see change, be the change.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Santie, and thank you for joining us today. Maybe you can just tell our viewers where they can find you.
You can find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn is my biggest platform that I'm using there at Santie van Niekerk. You can follow our pages, MiChem Dynamics and VGL Dimension. So I do post a lot of things on those pages, specifically MiChem Dynamics, where we post all the webinars coming up and training and things that we are doing, always new things we are doing. And then please follow my personal page as well, because there all the stuff around sacred and healing organizations will go out there. But then also my email address. So you can contact me on my email address, Santie, SANTIE, at MiChem Dynamics, MiChem MiChemDynamics.com. So you can also, if you want to just connect, I love to meet new people and see other perspectives out there. Please connect with me from there.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in at Under the Microphone. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. It really helps a lot. Thank you again to our sponsors. If you would like to learn more about them, please click on the link below. And if you would like to be a guest on our podcast or would like to sponsor us, please contact us at under.the.mic@relab.co.za. And we'll see you again next week for our next episode of Under the Microphone.